Hi and welcome back. In the last video I talked about how to be less nervous when you give a presentation, and I'll continue that theme in this lesson with how to look and sound good. There is some research that shows that up to 70% of the message that we give when we give a presentation it consists of our body language or non-verbal language. So in this talk I'd like to cover some of those aspects. First of all, how we stand, how we use our hands, the kind of eye contact and smile that we can give, and then I will add a little bit about voice. Finally, I want to talk about how to practice some of these things. So let's get to it. Our first topic concerning body language is how you might stand, and it's a good idea if you can stand straight with your chest out and your shoulders back, and then you look very professional and confident. Of course, the opposite of that is if you're kind of stooped over and you don't look very shy. It's not a very good look for the audience. And if you've got your arms folded in front of you, which some people do because they're a bit nervous, that's a barrier between you and the audience. A second related issue is how much movement you're going to make during your talk. And when you go into the presentation room, it's a good idea to look around and see how much space you've got to move about. It might be that you've got a podium with a fixed microphone and you have to stay there and you can't do much movement. But you can, of course, shift your weight a little bit. At the other end of the scale, you might be on a large stage, and then you can really use the area to move around. You might want to go to the right hand side, come back to the middle, go to the left hand side. It's great if you can move around slowly and then really take advantage of the space, really interact with the audience. Of course, if you're giving an inspirational speech, then you might want to actually get into the audience and then really interact with them and get close up and personal. So lots of different conditions for how you might want to move around, and you need to think about those when you give your talk. Another topic which is very important connected to a non-verbal language is that of gesture, or in particular talking with your hands. Research has shown that audiences really like presenters who use gestures and who talk with their hands. The reason for this is when you use your hands, when you use gestures, you emphasise points that you make, and the audience can pick up on that. And so it's really important to try to include gestures and hand talking in your speech, especially try and be as natural and relaxed as possible. There's no specific gestures that everybody should use. It's up to you how you might try to use them. Now, you might be wondering why there is a picture behind me, and I just want to show you an example where there are no gestures, and then see how it compares to an example with gestures. So, please look at the picture behind me. It's by an up-and-coming young Japanese artist, and you can see it's divided into 4 different sections. Okay, that's one example with no gestures. Let's try it in another way. Okay, could you look at the picture behind me? This is by an up-and-coming young Japanese artist, and you can see that she's divided the picture into 4 different sections. Okay, I hope that you could see that the second version was a lot more lively and interactive than the first version. So gestures and talking with your hands are important. However, you shouldn't overdo it, and sometimes it's good just to let your hands by your sides. And then when you do make a gesture, it becomes much more meaningful. In addition to having a positive posture and moving around the room in a relaxed and confident manner, you can interact with the audience through eye contact and through a friendly smile. Eye contact is very important to show that you're interacting with the audience and that you're enthusiastic to pass on whatever message you have in your presentation. It's important that you look around the room to different sections of the audience so that everybody feels included. However, try not to look at any individual perhaps longer than 3 seconds, as that might make them feel uncomfortable. In order to maintain eye contact with the audience, then you don't need to look at your slides. So it's important that you really do know what you're talking about and have practiced, and that the slides are not too complicated so that you keep needing to look at them. It's also important to show through your expressive face your enthusiasm for passing on your information to the audience. And an easy way to do that is to have a friendly smile. Even babies who've only been on the planet for a couple of weeks respond very warmly to a smile. So it doesn't have to be a really authentic smile. There's a nice feedback loop where if you give a fake smile, people smile back, and then you can smile at them in a genuine way. Of course, voice is incredibly important for sounding good. And there are two main aspects to voice, volume and speed. If you're too low and people can't hear you, then of course that will be a waste of the presentation because people won't understand what you've said. So if you're too loud, people may be a bit distracted trying to listen to you carefully. So getting the voice volume correct is very important. And speed is also very important too. You can be a little bit nervous when you're giving your talk and go too quickly. So it's important to try to slow down, to speak in short and clear sentences. What you shouldn't do is be very boring and talk in a monotone, because that will put people off. You've got to show that you're enthusiastic and passionate about what you're talking about, and your voice can do that. So, just to sum up, in today's lesson, I've talked about looking and sounding good, and I've mentioned the topics of how you might stand and walk around the presentation room, what you might do with your hands. I've talked about giving good eye contact with the audience and smiling in a friendly way. And I also talked about volume and speed of your voice. Now, it's important to practice all these things as much as possible. And one way to do that is to use a mirror or to record on your smartphone, or to show what you can do to your friends or your colleagues. If you do this, it's very good if you can give them some kind of check sheet so that they can tick off whether you're doing these things in a good way or whether you need some improvement or not. If you can do that, then it's more likely that you will get some constructive criticism from other people. Otherwise, if they really are friends or good colleagues, they might just say, "Oh, you're doing a good job." But what you want is some insight in how to get better.